Ooh, Sand River assault with artillery. So ideally what you want to do in assault is eventually get your tanks over here. I don't know necessarily if you want to get a T-30 over there. What I find best is that if you go over here early to try to prevent them from getting into this area, that's usually pretty good. If you can keep them confined to this back K line area, then you can just whittle them down. Attacking into this is, you know, in assault mode you don't have nearly as much time, so you kind of have to do things a little bit quicker. But we'll see what your team does. A lot of it depends on like how much they send this way, because like if they come out here, this place is difficult for them to take because you can counter it fairly easily. But this place, because of the where the spawns are, is generally more contested. So your 1390 is going up here. Hopefully, what would be great for this 1390 to do is just surf this ridge right here, and that will tell you, you know, where everybody's gone. The bad news is you're the only person lit right now, so all of the artillery is aiming at you. Well, other than the 1390, but they're not going to try to shoot the 1390. They're going to try to shoot you. Yeah, these guys are going a little bit too far back. You want to go where this T-29 and 7-1 is. This 1390 underneath is going to be a pain for you. Your 1390 is not in a good position. These guys over here, that's actually not a very good position for their team. But your team is feeding into them right now, which is helpful for them. And so you want to be a little bit more this way because you don't really have any cover. If that Ferdinand comes up, you know, he's going to be able to shoot you in the face.
It's a trap.
Snapshot, best shot. And then see, they have their IS-3 here, but you're pushing your guys in. So you kind of have to slow play this a little because it's going to take a little while for your guys that are camping to come up, if they come up at all. And then so the nice thing about this position right here, or the nice thing for you, bad thing for them, is that they can be shot by like this guy over here depending on where they go. And so you can create some shots for yourself because this distance is rather short. You should be able to spot them. You just don't want to be in proxy range of these guys, so I would recommend going more over like on this side by these rocks over there. You can get the same shots, you can get the same looks, but these guys won't be able to proxy you nearly as easily. See, if you just push up here and they're underneath, they're gonna be able to spot you. And then sometimes, like if I'm spotting something and I'm not lit, I'll aim in and then I'll just wait and see if anybody else shoots him. Depends on how precarious. If you feel like they can pull back before you can react, then you should probably just shoot them. But that way you can get a 2-for-1. This is still going to be a problem. See how their WZ-111 is pushing up right now? You kind of have to be a little bit risky here.
It's a trap.
There's never any reason for you to not pull back, like once you shoot, because you've got such a long reload.
Enemy armor is destroyed.
I think that Centurion seems upset about something. Try to save your WZ-111. He's going to be behind the corpse, which is going to make it difficult. But he's going to have to pull forward in order to shoot that guy anyways. For some reason, artillery is just not shooting at you because you're not in a very artillery-safe place. There we go. There's one.
It's a trap.
And then again, I still think that you could be a little bit like over more to where that IS-3 is. you know, when you poked over to shoot that T-30, the T-30 would have lit you, but you want to get away from the proxy spot that's right underneath you.
It's a trap!
Well, that's unfortunate. Yeah, at least the IS-3 got him. And why they're shooting at the IS-3 instead of you is beyond me. Target priority, not super good for pubs. And then again, if you're over by a little bit more to the east here, you can potentially shoot down at those guys as well. The problem is that, you know, half the game has gone by, right? Because it's only a 10-minute timer. So you have to start thinking about how to get someplace where you can help make your guys a little bit braver. And I think that what you could do is go over on this side and see, like, light this IS-3, maybe push through this area if you can. I mean, you're getting good sniping shots where you're at, but really you're just shooting their second line. So you need to make a dent into their front line someplace. So that's good. You're going over here. And it's probably going to be the IS-3 that you'll have better shots on. Although if that E-75 gets bolder, because... So what you wanted to do is have somebody here earlier so you could get that IS-3 before he crossed, but that's fine. Before you go over there, yeah, what you want to do is you want to peek over here and make sure that there's nothing, you know, really obvious, really close that's going to shoot you in the side when you go over. And then just go sit in these bushes and then see how far the IS-3 has come down. Or the other things you're looking for is whether this E-75 is moving north on this 0 line here. So see how you moved over right here? You're through the bush here. If you moved into this bush, you could have spotted that IS-3. Maybe he would have spotted you. The T-30 camo's not that great, but... That's why, even in slow, big-ass tanks, try to use bush cover if you can. You've also given up your element of surprise because now they know you're here, so artillery can potentially be looking over here. So at this point, there's only 3 minutes left. You need to push. You need to just do something because you're going to lose one way or the other at this point.
It's a trap!
Because you literally don't have... You can't fire fast enough to kill all the tanks that they have left. It's just too much time has gone by. So the pacing of this is... I mean, it's not your fault per se, because your team was really campy, but...
It's a trap!
I think you gotta push the situation, even if it gets you killed, because... A lot of times, you know, this is something that we talk about in the stream a lot. A lot of times you have to be brave for your team because they're not going to be brave without you.
Enemy vehicle destroyed. It's a trap!
But yeah, like, you have to realize that, like, when it ticked down to 3 minutes, there was already 0% chance for you to win. So if you look at the win meter, it's very, very low.
It's a trap!
And that's one of the things that I don't like about the pacing of these games, is that it requires you to be at a slightly faster pace, but most pubbies don't really understand that, so they play at a slow pace and then they lose, and it's just like, well, okay. It'd be interesting to see what the stats were for the defender on assault mode. Now, you should, I mean, it's nice to get damage at this point, but, like, target selection dictates that you should probably shoot the super Pershing. I mean, now you might as well shoot the M103, but... I'm also surprised that you haven't gotten artilleried more. I would have made it my priority to kill you. Especially given the position that you were in, and the fact that you were lit for, you know, at least half of the match.
It's a trap!
And then, so, anyways, should kind of feel like, oh, you know, if there was 2 more minutes in this game that you could win. And so whenever you find yourself thinking that, really what that means is that if I started doing shit 2 minutes earlier, we might have had a chance to win. So that's how you should think of it. So even though, I mean, you did a good job, I mean, you kind of didn't have a very good situation there just because your team was somewhat potato. But it's like, you could have done the stuff that you did earlier and emboldened your team a little bit. But now it's just, I mean, like I said, this game was concluded 3 minutes ago. But yeah, I mean, positionally, I think it was fine. I think this was just a pacing issue. And again, I'm not blaming you because your team was completely camping. But I think that when you recognize that, like, you should always know the down in the distance. And if there's time running out, like, you should be almost, you should be dead. You should die trying to get that victory. I think it's better to try that than to farm damage myself, but that's just my personal opinion. Most people can go other ways on that. Alright, so these are the stats from that game. So you did 8k damage, fantastic. Your team didn't do anything, which was kind of expected. It's an unfortunate loss. I mean, that's how a lot of these assault matches play out, unfortunately. My only thing is just, you know, figure out how you can spur your teammates on, you know, and sometimes it's not possible, and sometimes you just get killed, but it's better than guaranteeing a loss by doing nothing, in my opinion anyways. Anyhow, GG. I mean, I don't know what more the team could have asked from you. Alright, the next game is WZ-132 on Windstorm. Alright, so, a platoon of WZ-130s. It's usually not that good to platoon light tanks. You did get a rather favorable matchup though, so that's the good news. Alright, so it all depends on what you do. I would actually probably split up the light tanks, at least at the start. Maybe put one here and then one either on the north or on the south, either or. Oh, man, he's got a stock 132. That's teamwork right there. That's what you call a good platoon. Alright, so they got a T-37 in the middle. That guy's vulnerable. If you push up to the rock, you can shoot him. You gotta be careful. I would go stray a little bit more on that side. Too late. He's free. He was smart enough, well, I don't know if smart enough's the right word, he was lucky enough to move over to the rock where it's much more difficult to kill him. But if he stayed over in that little cubby, it's really easy to own him from the rock. You don't want to push it up there. There's no way that you're going to outshoot that guy, and you're just gonna expose yourself to artillery. They're bringing a lot of tanks over here, but you've got a lot of tanks counter pushing that side, which is good. Their FCM is not in a position to get shots on your guys as they go across here. Like most of these guys probably weren't even lit. And so this is not a very good matchup for you. I mean, you got a T-54 here, but he's a little bit too far back. Their city, they got 2 9s in the city. This is probably the best place for you guys to attack. So what you want to identify when you look at their defense is where's the weak point. This really isn't a weak point where you're at. This area right here, given that you have an IS-3 and a Tiger 2, that's not really a weak point. What's a weak point for, given the dispersion of your team, is that area over there. And again, you don't want to face off with an FCM, especially where you're at right now. This cubby, you can get hit from by artillery. So right now, like, you could be giving supporting fire to these guys over here. You could counter push this T-37, a lot of different options. Like, this is not a favorable matchup for you. This is probably the best one. You're never gonna pen this. There's virtually a 0% chance that you're going to pen that. Alright, so probably the best thing to do is kill the T-37. You can also counter push. You could kill the 5100. I think he's out. Oh, what's your team doing? Yeah, you're just getting crushed on that side now. So see how this E75 has come across, the M103 is still back, you got a T54 there. Now this is the weakest side. So like these guys should run, your buddy should run away. You actually want him to continue moving forward there to get a little bit more forward, because then you can get him in 1-2s, although apparently your buddy was not paying attention. That's when you should tell him, hey, there's a JP2 about to shoot you in the face. Yeah, now you need to run. So what you need to do is you need to help out over here someplace. Like, if your tank was a tank destroyer, then you would be in a great position. But as a light tank, no. You're like playing second line damage dealer in a light tank. That's not how you play this. You need to flank, and you need to help these guys a lot more. That STI is eventually going to be able to catch up. The STI is going to be the tough one. No, shoot to the right. You can shoot the FCM. You focus on helping your T-54. There you go. And then do 1-2s with this guy. Yeah, go exactly where you're going. Shoot him. Make yourself a target. As long as he's pushing the T-54, you shoot the STI. Oh man, the T-54 is coming right on the same side. The T-54 is drawing his shot. You're being a little bit too passive there. Come on. Okay, now you just gotta run. Now it's way too late. You don't want to stay there. If you stay there, there's a 100% chance that you will die. You can still turn your gun the other way. I mean, they're gonna be chasing you. Yeah. Anyways, I really feel like you played this too much like a sniper. Like, you don't have the gun to do what you did. And you basically negated your speed. You essentially, what you did is you drove to right here and you stayed there for the rest of the game. So, like, I think you potentially could have helped prevent them from doing that flank. This guy's probably reloading as well. Lol. And the late damage farming. And so what you really should do is you still need to light these guys. I mean, theoretically, you could prevent them from getting to your artillery if he wasn't sitting out in the open for some reason. But you've completely given up all hope of trying to win this game, and now you're like, I'll just farm more. Most likely he's up here. Lol. You can circle him, potentially. You should try for a track shot there. You also could have exploited the fact that he was on a slope and you were below him, and he doesn't really have that good of, he's gonna try to ram you. You didn't really have that good of, he doesn't really have that good of gun depression. Yeah, I just thought it was a little bit too much second line farming for a tank that really doesn't have a gun that scares anybody. I think that you have this window maybe where you could have helped your guys up here, and you were there was a lot of points where you're sort of probing or looking at things that's not a good matchup for you. Like fighting down this middle was not a good matchup for you. They had an FCM there, they had an STI there. Going into the city was not a good matchup for you. There's an E75 there and an M103 there. You had a lot of your team on this north, right? And it's the sort of too big to fail sort of scenario where you can't let those guys fail, because if those guys fail, you've got no advantage anywhere else on the map. The only advantage that you had is that you had a lot of your tanks out here. Most of the damage you did was late round damage, and this was pretty irrelevant, unfortunately. And so if we look at the stats, at least you made the most of your shots. That's good news. The bad news is your entire team died in the meantime. T-54 didn't do too badly. Although positionally, you know, whenever you're in that matchup where it's like you've got a couple medium tanks against a couple of heavy tanks, and you're just like, I don't think this is going to work well trying to exchange shots with them. The nice thing about the medium tanks is that you don't need to stay there. You just leave. And so you and the T-54 could have just left that area and gone and helped really either side and made a difference in the game. But where you're at, again, this is a lot like, to a lesser extent, in the T-30 game that we just watched, you know, you're resigning yourself to a loss. You're just saying, I'll lose, but, you know, I'll get some damage in. And I don't really think that's the way that you should probably play these games. But GG, nice try. Alright, the next one is a T20 game on Murovanka. Okay, so tier 8 game, big artillery, roughly the same comp otherwise. You can play either side. You can go to the east or the west. Dealer's choice. If you go east, I recommend playing this area right here or this area right here. In a T20 in this particular match, I don't recommend going into that E line. If you go to the west, you can play the top of this hill right here, or you can play these buildings right here. Again, you don't want to play inside the E line in a T20 in this type of match, at least not in the early game. Alright, so you are going west. You're sending a couple scouts east and one to the west, which is good. Most of your team is going west, so that means this side's going to basically be sacked. So like when you see this type of dispersion, and I always recommend looking at what your team is doing about 15 seconds into the game or so. When you see this type of dispersion, you want to try to set up a little bit more aggressively and then let them catch up to you. So you can spot here, that's fine. Yeah, a lot of times you don't, no, I guess you don't have 6th sense. Yeah, a lot of times you don't want to blow your cover. So if that guy did not spot you, you don't want to shoot. You just want to sit in the bush and wait for your team to get set up.
Penetration.
Try to retract him if you can, although I guess now you can just deal damage. And then I don't like always going up on the same part of the slope. It makes it too easy for artillery to hit you, so keep that in mind. Or land artillery.
We've lost a track.
And it's just one of those things, you just keep going back to the same well, you know, eventually they're going to be like, hey, all I got to do is just camp my reticle right here. And you're doing it again. Oh no! You can't shoot through that building. I mean, you can potentially shoot the back there and get a damaging shot, but okay. So at this point, I would get into this area right here. Although they were able to move an IS up without anybody seeing it. Yeah, you should still do it because you need to put some sort of side pressure on this. You could take that shot. I mean, there's no reason for you to not take that shot. The worst thing that'll happen is that you track him. You do need to move forward, though, because you have to realize you didn't really send anybody to the east, so you have to win over here. And I have no idea what you're doing right now. Like, your team is sort of pushing forward over there, and you're just kind of hanging out. Hanging out. Hanging out. Oh my god, do something. Yeah, even if you're not top tier, I mean, you're not bottom tier either. Just go. Go. Move. You need to put some pressure on these guys, because otherwise your guys over here are going to be meaningless. Your E25 is going in. Just go. Just do it. So you basically spent the last 2 minutes just kind of hanging out. Just hanging out. Little bit too passive. Still hanging out. We should go back through the replay and see how long it's been since you've actually fired a shot. You can shoot that. It's fine. Go. Like, you could go right there. Go, like, 5 meters to your right, and you can shoot back through his drive wheel. So, you're being an observer in this game, where you're hoping that your team wins it. That's basically what you're doing right now. And then now you're pushing forward. See, you could have done this, not to this extent. You could have just sat on this corner right there and shot this IS in the ass while those guys were right there. And then what that does is that it forces them to make a choice on what they want to do. Do they want to push forward and come into the fire of your team or not? Okay, so now you got to go back. And the caps are still really easy to reset on this. So you just basically come over to this area around over there. Hellcat's in the backfield. I wouldn't worry too much about him yet. Focus on getting one reset, and then you can get the... yeah, so you want to drive a little bit, use these bushes in order to get through here. So presumably you've been lit. It's just you haven't. See, now you're a little too YOLO. Like, there's got to be a balance between... what's the word that I'm looking for? Being too aggressive and just being full YOLO. Like, there's got to be a balance. Like, you could have just sat back, shot down that guy's house, and then shot him. Like, that would have been the easiest thing ever to do, and he would never have really gotten a good shot at you. Right now, you should be going back, right? Right now, the cap threat is no longer there. The T-28 is moving through the middle. Make sure that these guys get cleared out. There's really no benefit for you going off on your own. Although at this point, I suppose you can make the argument that you should kill the artillery. And then just drive straight there. You don't need to be sneaky. Yeah, I'm not even sure how you guys lose this game. I guess they must really suck at killing the T-28. So it's likely that the artillery are all going to be in the same place, so you have to be ready for that. Try to knock over as few trees as possible.
Enemy armor is damaged.
Don't ram him! Don't ram him! Oh my god.
Enemy armor is
He's a really heavy tank, so you lost 112 health there to give him like 12 points of damage, which didn't really matter since you were going to hit him with a shell that was going to do way more damage than that anyways.
penetration.
Oh, let's hope he shoots over. Looks like he shot short.
Enemy armor is destroyed.
Lol. Just keep on trucking through.
Enemy armor is hit.
No, just sit there and fully aim. There's no reason to do anything other than just fully aim there. You're safe from the T-28. Alright, so now what you need to know, you know that the T-28 is over here anyway, so he's actually in a good position for you. What you want to do is you want to get on the opposite side of a hill from him. You want to get there as quickly as possible because you know that he's a slow tank. Yeah, I don't really think that you guys are going to have time to cap. You should be able to solo the T-28 if you catch him coming over the hill there. Putting one tank on cap, never going to work. Putting two tanks on cap, I'm not entirely convinced that would work. But putting one tank on cap, definitely not going to work. Well, this JP is like backing up to the cap. Yeah, so I'm not sure what your plan. If you see him on the right, what are you gonna do? You're going to push forward and knock over your own cover? So like, see how you're looking off to the right here? So what if he appears right there? The only place that you can go to avoid him is to push forward. So you can actually win this. Just no. So you don't actually have to shoot him. So he's got to come through the buildings, right? So no. You get as close to the building as possible, and you want to proxy him because you need to know where he's coming from. What he wants to do is stay as far away from you as possible. Make him drive through the building. Oh, you could have used the corpse of the JP as well. Because if he shoots the building, right, then you go through it. Get off the cap. You're not married to the cap. You're not married to the cap. Very good. Very good.
We're done for. Everyone get out.
Yeah. So anyways, always, you should have turned your tracks. Like once you stopped at this JP, you should have turned your tracks out instead of forward. Because the only place that you were going to go was going to be this way. You weren't going to try to run away that way because he would have just been able to shoot you. He also could have just driven through the building. So what you're looking to do is basically proxy spot him and then beat his turret traverse, because his turret traverse is slow relative to your tank. I still don't think that was a good play, and certainly not if the JP is going to try to back in there. But you don't want to alert them to the cap before you get 2 people on, because otherwise he can still be searching. I think you would have been better off playing these hills here, just spotting him, lighting him. Even if you could put the JP on the cap, and if you play this right, you could spot him coming in and slow him down enough that you could actually cap. You take advantage of the fact that he's in a really slow tank that doesn't have good traverse, and it has a limited angle turret. So yeah, just a little bit too passive over here. I felt like you could have pressured this side a little bit more. There was probably 2 or 3 minutes where you were literally just going up and down here, doing nothing, sightseeing, watching your team. That's it. And it was just a lot of hope, and I don't like hoping that my team wins. I'd rather die trying to do something that I think will help them win. I think it's important to learn where you can put your opponent into a difficult situation. I felt like if you drove just this 50 meters forward to right here, right, you could have done the same thing, just poke back and forth, but you could have put pressure on this IS, right, which would have forced these guys to do something. And where you're at, though, you weren't putting any pressure on their team at all. Alright, and so these are the stats. You didn't get a whole lot out of your team, unfortunately. The Tiger did pretty well. You benefit, your stats were padded a bit by the artillery. But yeah, I don't know. Focus more on that mid game, making sure that you're not, like, I always feel like unless you're on a flank where you're holding back 10 guys by yourself, if you haven't fired in a while, you should figure out why, whether you can move to a better position or not. And if you could move to a better position, it's usually better for your team. The opposite is also true, where, in that situation that I just said, like, if they had a good number of their heavy tanks there, and if it's just you and the Tiger there, like, you guys don't want to poke. Like, I see this happen a lot where people try to trade in those types of situations. You need to recognize where you have an advantage and where you have a disadvantage. And if you're at a disadvantage, you don't want to bleed health. But if you have an advantage, spending a little bit of health in order to kill them is incredibly useful, for giving your team an advantage to win. But GG, nice try.